Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 8, Prayers by Queen Kunti, Shlok 30. Janma karma cha vishwatmana ajasya karturatmanaha tiryan narsisu yada suhu tad atyanta vidambanam. Of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work though you are inactive, and that you take birth though you are the vital force and the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. The transcendental pastimes of the Lord are not only bewildering but also apparently contradictory. In other words, they are all inconceivable to the limited thinking power of the human being. The Lord is the all prevailing supersoul of all existence, and yet He appears in the form of boar amongst the animals, in the form of a human being as Ram, Krishna, etc., in the form of a rishi like Narayan, and in the form of an aquatic like a fish. Yet it is said that he is unborn and he has nothing to do. In the Shruti mantra, it is said that the Supreme Brahman has nothing to do. No one is equal to or greater than him. He has manifold energies, and everything performed by him perfectly by automatic knowledge, strength, and activity. All this prove without any question that the Lord's activities, forms, and deeds are all inconceivable to our limited thinking power. But because He is inconceivably powerful, everything is possible in Him. Therefore, no one can calculate Him exactly. Every action of the Lord is bewildering to the common man. He cannot be understood by the Vedic knowledge, but he can be easily understood by the pure devotees because they are intimately related with him. The devotees therefore know that although he appears amongst the animals, he is not an animal, nor a man, nor a rishi, nor a fish. He is eternally the Supreme Lord in all circumstances. Shlok 31. Gopyadade त्वयि कृतागसि दाम तावद् या ते दशाश्रुकलिलाजनसम्भ्रमाक्षम वक्त्रं निनीय भयभावनया स्थितस्य सा मा विमोहयति भिरपि यत् बिभेति. My dear Krishna, Yashoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflowed with tears, which washed the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. Here is another explanation of the bewilderment created by the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord is the Supreme in all circumstances, as already explained. Here is a specific example of the Lord's being the Supreme and at the same time a plaything in the presence of his pure devotee. The Lord's pure devotee renders service unto the Lord out of unalloyed love only, and while discharging such devotional service, the pure devotee forgets the position of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Lord also accepts the loving service of his devotees more relishably when the service is rendered spontaneously out of pure affection without anything of reverential admiration. Generally, the Lord is worshipped by the devotees in reverential attitude, but the Lord is meticulously pleased when the devotee, out of pure affection and love, considers the Lord to be less important than himself. The Lord's pastimes in the original abode of Golok Vrindavan are exchanged in that spirit. The friends of Krishna consider him one of them. They do not consider him to be of reverential importance. The parents of the Lord, who are all pure devotees, consider him a child only. The Lord accepts chastisement of the parents more cheerfully than the prayers of the Vedic hymns. Similarly, he accepts the reproaches of his finances more palatably than the Vedic hymn. Lord Krishna, when he was present in this material world to manifest his eternal pastimes in the transcendental realm of Golok Vrindavan, for an attraction of the people in general, displayed a unique picture of subordination before his foster mother Yashoda. The Lord, in his natural childish playful activities, used to spoil the stock butter of Mother Yashoda by breaking the pots and distributing the contents to his friends and playmates, including the celebrated monkeys of Vrindavan who took advantage of the Lord's munificence. Mother Yashoda saw this, and out of her pure love, she wanted to make a show of punishment for her transcendental child. She took a rope and threatened the Lord that she would tie him up as is generally done in the ordinary household. Seeing the rope in the hands of Mother Yashoda, the Lord bowed down his head and began to weep just like a child, and tears rolled down his cheeks, washing off the black ointment smeared about his beautiful eyes. This picture of the Lord is adored by Kunti Devi because she is conscious of the Lord's supreme position. He is feared often by fear personified, yet he is afraid of his mother who wanted to punish him just in an ordinary manner. Kunti was conscious of the exalted position of Krishna, whereas Yashoda was not. Therefore, Yashoda's position was more exalted than Kunti's. Mother Yashoda got the Lord as her child, and the Lord made her forget altogether that her child was the Lord Himself. If Mother Yashoda would have been conscious of the exalted position of the Lord, she would certainly have hesitated to punish the Lord, but she was made to forget this situation because the Lord wanted to make a complete gesture of childishness before the affectionate Yashoda. This exchange of love between the mother and the son was performed in a natural way, and Kunti, remembering the scene, was bewildered, and she could do nothing but praise the transcendental filial love. Indirectly, Mother Yashoda is praised for her unique position of love, for she could control even the all powerful Lord as her beloved child. Shlok 32 केचिदाहुरजं जातं पुण्यश्लोकस्य कीर्तये यदोप्रियस्यान्वयाय मलस्य chandanam. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yadu, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malaya hills. Because the Lord's appearance in this material world is bewildering, there are different opinions about the birth of the unborn. In the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that he takes his birth in the material world, although he is the Lord of all creations and he is unborn, so there cannot be any denial of the birth of the unborn because he himself establishes the truth. But still, there are different opinions as to why he takes his birth. That is also declared in the Bhagavad Gita. He appears by his own internal potency to re-establish the principles of religion and to protect the pious and to annihilate the impious. That is the mission of the appearance of the unborns. Still, it is said that the Lord is there to glorify the pious king Yudhishthira. Lord Shri Krishna certainly wanted to establish the kingdom of the Pandavas for the good of all in the world. When there is a pious king ruling over the world, the people are happy. When the ruler is impious, the people are unhappy. In the age of Kali, in most cases, the rulers are impious and therefore the citizens are also continuously unhappy. But in the case of democracy, the impious citizens themselves send their representative to rule over them, and therefore they cannot blame anyone for their unhappiness. Maharaja Nala was also celebrated as a great pious king, but he had no connection with Lord Krishna. Therefore, Maharaja Yudhishthira is meant here to be glorified by Lord Krishna. He had also glorified King Yadu, having taken his birth in the family. He is known as Yaduva, Yaduvira, Yadunandana, etc., although the Lord is always independent of such obligation. It is just like the sandalwood that grows in the Malaya hills. Trees can grow anywhere and everywhere, yet because the sandalwood trees grow mostly in the area of the Malaya hills, the name sandalwood and the Malaya hills are interrelated. Therefore, the conclusion is that the Lord is ever unborn like the sun, and yet he appears as the sun rises on the eastern horizon. As the sun is never the sun of the eastern horizon, so the Lord is no one's son, but he is the father of everything that be. Shlok 33. Apare vasudevasya devakyam yachito abhyagata ajastvamasya kshemay vadhay cha suradvibhasham. Others say that since both Vasudev and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly you are unborn, yet you take your birth for their welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. It is also said that Vasudev and Devaki in their previous birth as Suttapa and Parsini underwent a severe type of penance to get the Lord as the son, and as a result of such austerities, the Lord appeared as the Son. It is already declared in the Bhagavad Gita that the Lord appears for the welfare of all people of the world and to vanquish the asuras or the materialistic atheist. Shlok 34. Bharavataranayane bhuvo nav ivodadho siddhantya bhuribharen zato yatma anubhavarthitaha. Others say that the world being overburdened like a boat at sea is much aggrieved, and that Brahma, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish the trouble. Brahma, or the first living being born just after the creation, is the direct son of Narayana. Narayana as Garbhodharakasai Vishnu first of all entered the material universe. Without spiritual contact, matter cannot create. This principle was followed from the very beginning of the creation. The Supreme Spirit entered the universe, and the first living being, Brahma, was born on a lotus flower grown out of the transcendental abdomen of Vishnu. Vishnu is therefore known as Padmanabha. Brahma is known as Atmabhu because he was begotten directly from the Father without any contact of Mother Lakshmiji. Lakshmiji was present just before Narayan engaged in the service of the Lord, and still without contact with Lakshmiji, Narayan begot Brahma. That is the omnipotency of the Lord. One who foolishly considers Narayan like other living beings should take a lesson from this. Narayan is not an ordinary living being. He is the personality of Godhead himself, and he has all the potencies of all the sins in all parts of his transcendental body. An ordinary living being begets a child by the intercourse of sex, and he has no other means to beget a child another than the one designed for him. But Narayan, being omnipotent, is not born to any condition of energy. He is complete and independent to do anything and everything by his various potencies very easily and perfectly. Brahma is therefore directly the son of the Father and was not put into the womb of a mother. Therefore, he is known as Atmabhu. This Brahma is in charge of further creations in the universe, secondarily reflected by the potency of the omnipotent. Within the halo of the universe, there is a transcendental planet known as Svetadvipa, which is the abode of the Shirodakshaya Vishnu and Paramatma feature of the Supreme Lord. Whenever there is trouble in the universe that cannot be solved by the administrative demigods, they approach Brahmaji for a solution, and if it is not to be solved even by Brahmaji, then Brahmaji consults and prays to the Shirodakshaya Vishnu for an incarnation and solution to the problems. Such a problem arose when Kamsa and others were ruling over the earth, and the earth became too much overburdened by the misdeeds of the Asuras. Brahmaji, along with other demigods, prayed at the shore of the Shirodhaka ocean, and they were advised of the descent of Krishna as the son of Vasudev and Devaki. So some people say that the Lord appeared because of the prayers of Brahmaji. Shlok 35. Bhave asmin klishyamananam ami vidyakam karmabhihi shravanasmarana harnani karishaniti kechana. And yet others say that you appear to regenerate the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshipping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pains might take advantage and gain liberation. In the Srimad Bhagavad Gita, the Lord asserts that He appears in every millennium just to re-establish the way of religion. The way of religion is made by the Supreme Lord. No one can manufacture a new path of religion, as is the fashion for certain ambitious persons. The factual way of religion is to accept the Lord as the supreme authority and thus render service unto him in spontaneous love. A living being cannot help but render service because he is constitutionally made for that purpose. The only function of the living being is to render service to the Lord. The Lord is great and living beings are subordinate to him. Therefore, the duty of the living being is just to serve him only. Unfortunately, the illusion living beings, out of misunderstanding only, become servants of the sense by material desire. This desire is called avidya or nescience, and out of such desire the living being makes different plans for material enjoyment centered about a perverted sex life. He therefore becomes entangled in the chain of birth and death by transmigrating into different bodies on different planets under the direction of the Supreme Lord. Unless, therefore, one is beyond the boundary of this nescience, one cannot get free from the threefold miseries of material life, that is, the law of nature. The Lord, however, out of his causeless mercy, because he is more merciful to the suffering living beings than they can expect appears before them and renovates the principles of devotional service comprised of hearing, chanting, remembering, serving, worshipping, praying, cooperating, and surrendering unto Him. Adoption of all the above mentioned items or any one of them can help a conditioned soul get out of the tangle of nations and thus become liberated from all material sufferings created by the living being, illusion by the external energy. This particular type of mercy is bestowed upon the living being by the Lord in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. श्लोक 36 शृण्वन्ति गायन्ति गृणत्यभीक्षणः शः स्मरन्ति नन्दन्ति तवे हितं जनाः त एव पश्यन्त्याचिरेण तावकं भवप्रवाहो परं padambujam. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant and repeat your transcendental activities or take pleasure in others doing so certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and deaths. The Supreme Lord Shri Krishna cannot be seen by our present conditional vision. In order to see him, the present vision has to be changed by developing a different condition of life full of spontaneous love of Godhead. When Shri Krishna was personally present on the face of the globe, not everyone could see him as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Materialists like Ravan, Hiranyakashipu, Kamsa, Jarasandha, Shishupala, etc. were highly qualified personalities by acquisition of material assets, but they were unable to appreciate the presence of the Lord. Therefore, even though the Lord may be present before our eyes, it is not possible to see him unless we have the necessary vision. This necessary qualification is developed by the process of devotional service only, beginning with hearing about the Lord from the right sources. The Bhagavad Gita is one of the popular literatures which is generally heard, chanted, repeated, etc. by the people in general. But in spite of such hearing, etc., sometimes it is experienced that the performer of such devotional service does not see the Lord eye to eye. The reason is that the first item, Shravana, is very important. If hearing is from the right source, it acts very quickly. Generally, people hear from unauthorized persons. Such unauthorized persons may be very learned by academic qualifications, but because they do not follow the principles of devotional service, hearing from them becomes a sheer waste of time. Sometimes the texts are interpreted fashionably to suit their own purposes. Therefore, first one should select a competent and bona fide speaker and then hear from him. When the hearing process is perfect and complete, the other processes become automatically perfect in their own way. There are different transcendental activities of the Lord, and each and every one of them is competent to bestow the desired result, provided the hearing process is perfect. In the Bhagavatam, the activities of the Lord begin from his dealings with the Pandavas. There are many other pastimes of the Lord in connection with his dealings with the Asuras and others. And in the 10th canto, the sublime dealing with his conjugal associates like gopis, as well as with his married wives at Dwaraka, are mentioned. Since the Lord is absolute, there is no difference in the transcendental nature of each and every dealing of the Lord. But sometimes people in an unauthorized hearing process take more interest in hearing about his dealings with the gopis. Such an inclination indicates the lusty feelings of the hearer. So, a bona fide speaker of the dealings of the Lord never indulges in such hearings. One must hear about the Lord from the very beginning, as in the Srimad Bhagavatam or any other scriptures, and that will help the hearer attain perfection by progressive development. One should not therefore consider that his dealings with the Pandavas are less important than his dealings with the gopis. We must always remember that the Lord is always transcendental to all mundane attachment. In all the above mentioned dealings of the Lord, he is the hero in all circumstances, and hearing about him or about his devotees or combatants is conducive to spiritual life. It is said that the Vedas and Puranas, etc., are all made to revive our lost relation with Him. Hearing of all these scriptures is essential.